Hello and welcome back to the Merchant Track. It is a pleasure to have you here, and we've got our final speaker of the day for you now, who is a UX researcher and consultant at Google, Samar Elshafiey, and she's going to be talking about designing memorable mobile experiences, which I am super keen on finding more out about. So please welcome Samar, and thank you so much for being part of Meet Magento UK.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. This is Samar. I'm a UX consultant at Google, and I'll talk to you today about designing memorable UX experiences on both your mobile, web, and apps. So before I start, I just want to clarify what UX experience is. I'm pretty sure most of you know, but just to emphasize, UX experience is the feeling that users get when interacting with your website. So positive experiences are very likely to result in loyal users who are likely to complete their purchase and probably go back to your site for another purchase. So it's likely to maximize your conversion rate. On the other side, bad UX experiences kind of do the opposite. So they result in less loyal users who are very unlikely to finish their purchase on your website and very unlikely to go back. I'm sure you've learned at several points and several sessions during this event that more and more users are coming online, especially on mobile during this situation. And as more and more users come online, this topic becomes more and more important. Users need you, they are going more online, and they need to get better online UX experiences, and they're expecting you to be there for them. So this presentation is going to cover general UX best practices applicable for all times, but it's built with the current coronavirus situation in mind, so I can provide you with more practical and instantly relevant recommendations. To tell you a bit about myself before we kick off, I'm a UX researcher and consultant at Google. So my daily job basically involves helping Google partners across different industries to understand their user needs and to improve their mobile, web, and app experiences. Previously, I was a user researcher also at Google. At Google's Trust and Safety team, I was researching controversial content like misinformation, hate speech, and so on. In today's session, I'll cover two main parts. The first part, I'll focus on why in the first place you should care about designing a good or memorable mobile experience. And then in the second part, I'll walk you through how you can do so in very hands-on practical recommendations that you can implement. I'll walk you through every step of the conversion funnel, starting from your home page, going through your product listing page, product details page, checkout page, and then finally the FAQs page. Before we start discussing the why, I want you to put on a user hat for a second. And I want you to imagine your own personal experience. The last time you've purchased something online, just take 10 seconds, remember this experience, and I want you to rate your user experience from a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being that you had the worst experience, 5 being they had the best experience. I'll give you 10 seconds now to do so. And you can even share your scores in the chat. Cool. So now that you've thought about one of the experiences that you've recently had, I want you to think about the main reason why you thought about this score. And I'll give you another 5 seconds to do so. Just imagine or think about the main thing that pops out in your head.
Quite a lot.
So if you've given,
sorry.
If you've given a score of below than 4, you probably faced some challenges with your experience and might relate to how users feel. So at Google, we've conducted some research about challenges that have emerged due to the current situation, and we've identified top 5 main challenges that I'm going to walk you through right now. The first one is the wrong amount of communication. Users have been experiencing either businesses over-communicating or under-communicating, and that has been a really frustrating experience. Over-communication happened when websites mentioned a lot of redundant details that are not serving a purpose, resulting in users being overwhelmed with a lot of information that's not really particularly critical to their user journey on this particular website. Under-communication on the other side happened when websites failed to acknowledge the current situation altogether, resulting in users being lost and uncertain what to expect. So users would land on a page, they wouldn't know if this website is still functioning, is it still taking orders, how exactly am I expecting my user experience to change or my user journey to change. The second challenge was the lack of flexibility. So the current situation, we might already know that it has given rise to some different user needs across different industries. And the problem is websites have been very slow to provide the needed flexibility to adapt to these rising needs. For example, in one of the geographical locations, for example, Germany, strict social distancing wasn't exactly very straightforward in some countries, because it's not really common to drop a package on a doorstep and leave it. It's actually illegal. And users weren't able to communicate with the delivery person to ask them for any type of special delivery requirements. So users who wanted to strictly social distance were actually struggling to get their packages. Another example is the fact that making very small but important decisions about the conditions of the products that we're purchasing became a lot more difficult. For example, I could go to a supermarket before all this happened and I could grab some ripe bananas because I want to use them tonight. But it's not really an option now that I have to make my purchase online, and I can't really decide if this is ripe bananas or if it's greener ones like ripen at home type. And websites haven't been really fast to adapt to this flexibility to give the users the options and the flexibility they need for decision making. The third challenge is that users actually found themselves doing weekly repetitive tasks. So they shifted to grocery shopping more online, for example, and every single time they would have to order the same grocery shopping list, re-enter their addresses and their card details, etc. And they found themselves doing a lot of redundant tasks. Fourth is the fact that we now have a limited ability to try on products. So users find it very challenging to get it right the first time. This is by far the key barrier to online shopping that users have been experiencing. And then finally, we all know that users have been facing several logistical challenges that are very understandable, and users were very understandable of why this happened and the fact that businesses are doing their best to get over these logistical challenges. However, they still impacted their user experience. They weren't receiving this instant gratification by receiving their products or their orders fast as they were expecting, and they weren't getting anything in lieu to replace this instant gratification feeling. Given these challenges, users started reprioritizing what they care most about in a retailer. So yes, of course, they wanted to stick to brands that they're loyal to, but they started considering other factors, like they started appreciating retailers that provide updates on latest product information and delivery information, like changing products as well. They started appreciating retailers that made them feel more like they are top of mind and well taken care of. So retailers that take solid safety precautions and communicate them very clearly. They appreciated ones that offered short delivery time and lenient return policies so they can get over this challenge of trying things on. And more than ever, we all felt in the same boat. We were all empathizing with one another, and we wanted retailers to do the same. We wanted to deal with retailers who shared our concern for each other and cared for their workers. Also, users wanted to support local businesses to stand up to the ongoing changes and take responsibility for supporting their community. And finally, they started appreciating retailers that actually had more action-oriented responses, like offering deals in response to all the financial constraints that people were facing, and appreciated retailers that actually showed them they empathized rather than ones that only told them that they did. Now, will these changing habits outlive the situation? That's an interesting question, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of different researchers analyzing this. The short answer is yes, probably. The situation has stayed long enough for users to develop sustainable habits that are there to stay for a while. For example, consumers have established loyalty for brands they've been using during this period. So for example, if they started using a local brand, they have established some brand loyalty for this brand. They've gotten used to the convenience of online shopping, even though they viewed it as a more expensive alternative because of all the shipping costs and the tipping delivery drivers. However, they got used to this level of convenience that they were acknowledging how hard it would be to just let go of this inconvenience even after the situation unfolds. It will be very long before they forget either a good or a bad user experience that they had on a website. And generally speaking, good UX is a very strong asset beyond the current situation. So having said that, let's talk about tangible solutions to give your users the experience that they deserve. Overall, there are 3 key design principles that you have to think about when communicating updates about the situation. They are color, tone, and message. In your updates, try to use calm colors, so nothing too bright, nothing too alarming like red. Avoid these alarming colors, but also try to make it visible enough to attract attention. So maybe use contrasting colors from your color palette to be coherent with your design. For the tone, use caring and calm tone, but also make sure it's authoritative and credible. So if you're stating any facts from, for example, government sources like government restrictions of easing lockdown and so on, always quote your sources. And finally, your message should be exactly the right combination of empathetic, but also positive and to the point and informative. So make sure to have a few sentences, like don't use 2 sentences that convey the same message when you have a limited space, for example, in your information banner. So make sure it's both empathetic and to the point. Also, with more and more users coming online, try to pay more attention to the accessibility of your design. So now let's jump to more concrete recommendations specifically to your homepage. Your homepage generally should set user expectations about the full user journey. A user should land on the homepage knowing what exactly they're going to go through for the full user journey. The first recommendation is obviously to have an information banner to communicate your key updates, so your users wouldn't face any surprises further down the line. For example, this is something that I faced myself. Users would maybe find out at the last step of purchasing that they have to wait a longer period than they can afford to get their product shipped, for example. Information banners are a really, really effective way to communicate updates that do not directly impact your critical user journey. More critical updates should be integrated in your design, and I'll explain what that means in a second. Generally speaking, there are 3 key pieces of information that users expect to see on your homepage. First of all, you need to acknowledge the current situation and whether you're operating or not, so no user would land on your website and wonder if you're still opening. The second most important piece is whether delivery times, fees, and product offerings have fundamentally changed. And the last most important piece of information are any safety precautions that you're taking to ensure the safety of your users and workers. This is just an example mock-up of how an information banner could look like. When designing your information banner, make it closable so it wouldn't be overwhelming for users who've got the message and just want to use the full screen space for other tasks. And always have a clear call to action to redirect users to more information. To distinguish which updates are critical enough to warrant a change on your homepage design versus, just important but not too critical and could be mentioned in a banner, ask yourself, are users likely to go through the purchasing flow the same way they used to they used to do it in the past? If the answer is yes, then there's no need to integrate your update in any further designs beyond the information banner. Your information banner is no. If the answer is no, if this update will disrupt the user journey in any way, for example, you're announcing the closure of your website altogether, then you need to change the design accordingly. For example, you need to change your call to action to notify users when you're going to be back if your website is closed. You can change your CTA to call for pre-orders if you can offer any, or even redirect users to social media. The main idea is never to let users face a dead end. Remember to always facilitate the access to newly added updates. So add it to your global navigation, like your hamburger menu or your footer navigation. So you can have multiple entry points to this information and it would be easily discoverable. Finally, be creative about managing your user expectations and integrating your online and offline experiences. So for example, implementing a booking system for your delivery slots or your store visits when you're back offline. This is a very nice solution that you can offer your users. And in our research, we've noticed that users actually really appreciated this option, but were afraid to use it because they were afraid they were taking someone else's slots. They were afraid to take slots from like elderly or people at risk. So they were preventing or like avoiding to use the system altogether, which was really interesting because they actually really appreciated this system, but they weren't sure if taking the slots would disadvantage anyone else. So when you implement such a system, ensure there is availability of flexible slots for senior and at-risk citizens. So you can guarantee them a safe shopping experience, of course, while you reassure everyone else that they're not really taking anyone else's slots and they can feel safe about using the system. And make sure it's very well integrated in user experience so users wouldn't miss out on it, only to discover on their checkout page that they actually have to wait 3 weeks to get their lot. Secondly, the product listing page. So the main goal, generally speaking, of the product listing page is to showcase all your products and facilitate product search so users can easily find what they need. Many users actually over the past period have been struggling to find their needed items among the overwhelming amount of out-of-stock goods. So if you clearly highlight your out-of-stock items to avoid users clicking on them on that product listing page, only to find out on the product details page or later that they're actually out of stock and they cannot purchase them, this is going to be a big win for your user experience. Also, if you look at this mockup, we created a banner on the PLP. We did this because you always have to remember that users may land on your page from a search engine or from another referral link and might miss all the updates that you have on your homepage altogether. So you can always, if this is happening, you can always show a banner on your product listing page or product details page and always have a link to more information so users can catch up on all the information that they need to know about. The second recommendation is provide alternative actions for your out-of-stock items. This resonates with the recommendation to never let a user reach a dead end. Always provide them another alternative to stay on the page or use your service somehow. So, for example, you can allow your users to get notified when the item is back. If I had to emphasize one recommendation for the product listing page, it would probably be implementing filters. This is relevant to this situation and beyond. Implementing filters is really, really important. It empowers users to find what they're looking for very efficiently, very smoothly, and reduces any chances of users being overwhelmed with irrelevant products that they might not be interested in the first place. So exposing your search bar is very, very important as well. You might have heard this recommendation, generally speaking, as a good UX practice. It is very, very important. However, it does not complement the use of filters. I mean, it does not replace the use of filters. It definitely complements it. Finally, if you sell several products that are close substitutes and you've been suffering from multiple out-of-stock items or any logistical problems or challenges, you can prompt your users to choose substitutes. And you can empower them to do so per product, because usually different products have different brand loyalties. So for example, for myself, I'd be okay with replacing my tomato brand with another tomato brand, but I wouldn't be okay with replacing my shampoo brand with another, for example. So empowering users to make these critical decisions that might seem small, but are actually very important to them would really help them feel empowered. Your product details page is where you show further details about your product. It's where you can tell your users how the product is going to fulfill their needs and remind them of why they should buy specifically from your website and not from any other place. So again, make sure not to drive users to a dead end. Always provide alternative actions. So for example, this is a mock-up that you can use. For example, if you run out of stock of a specific product, you can change your CTAs to reflect that. So you can allow users to maybe pre-order if you can offer this, or you can allow them to add their product to their wish list to keep monitoring if it's back and keep monitoring if its price decreased maybe, or if you offered any discounts. You can allow them to engage with similar items, so show them complementary products or whatever products that fit their look. And you can always also give them the option to get notifications when the item is back in stock. The second one is very important. It's about rebuilding the offline experience online. We use a lot of our senses when we decide whether a product is suitable for us or not when we're buying offline. So we touch the product, we feel it, we try it on, maybe we smell it, and even visually, we get a lot of information when we look at it offline than we get from looking at an image online. And by far, this has been the most challenging thing when it comes to online purchasing. Try to make up for this experience online, basically by including images, high quality images as much as you can, as many images as much as you can, videos if you can. You can provide detailed situational descriptions like what this product matches, where and when you expect to wear it. Maybe include a size chart so users can map their sizes easily and like maximize their chances to get it right. If you have some engineering capacity to do any VR solutions, definitely look into that, or maybe emulating the color and texture of your product online. That would be a very big win. Other solutions that are more offline than online include you, for example, trying to send samples to users. So users can actually select which samples of products that they want to receive on their shipment. So they're already getting a product now, they're purchasing a product. And on top of that, they can select samples for other products that they can try on. And then basically they can try this at home, and then if they like it, they can purchase whatever product they liked in the next time. This is particularly useful for example, cosmetics or the beauty industry generally, when users are not comfortable using testers anymore, and by all means it's like a health hazard that shouldn't be used. But basically users need to get the sense and feel of the product, how it looks on their skin and how they look wearing it, but they cannot do this experience anymore offline. Highlight your refund policy to encourage your users to try their purchase at home and remind them one last time of your value proposition. So your value proposition is why they should use your website and buy your product versus all your other competitors. Make sure to emphasize this one last time, very close to your CTA, so it would be in a very visible place, and emphasize it so users would be reminded one last time that this is a good idea, that they're purchasing this product, So your value proposition could be something like the fact that you're providing free delivery, or the fact that you've extended your returns duration to like 90 days or something like that. And always use the number of days. Like you can compare the number of days that in this situation versus what you used to offer before. So users can benchmark it in their minds. If it's not a big difference, they're actually likely to buy it, thinking that, okay, like before it used to take 2 weeks to get the item, now it takes like 2 weeks and 3 days, so it's not really a big difference, so I might as well buy it. Instead of if you just mention like, you know, almost 3 weeks, people are going to be like, okay, this is a very long time. Finally, building a community around your brand and your products is really, really important, especially now in a world where it's very difficult to interact with the products. We rely more on social proof. So because we cannot interact with the product, we need people to tell us what they think about it. We rely so much on people's opinion because we cannot experience the product ourselves. So integrating user reviews, review stars, promoting your like user comments on your website, or prompting your users to share their experiences, real life images of how their product looks like within their homes, or them wearing it, or even use hashtags and redirect users to your social media. So by this time, when people or users reach your checkout page, they're already made their minds about the purchase. So all you need to know is to facilitate this last step so it's no longer a barrier to completing the purchase. Try to make this step as clear and fast and simple as possible. So optimize your form fields to minimize user effort. Basically, try to have the minimum number of fields possible. Just try to exclude anything that's not absolutely critical for the delivery to happen. You can clarify the mandatory fields as well. You can implement techniques like autofill to speed up the process, especially if this is like a fast-moving good website and users are likely to complete this purchase frequently. You can trigger the relevant keyboard depending on the field that's being completed. So for example, if a user is inputting their phone number, they'd need a numbers keyboard, versus if they're entering like their address, they need more a text keyboard. Remind logged in users to check their default address that might have changed due to the current situation. Some people had it by default set up their work address, so make sure there's no confusion that happens there. And finally, you can integrate Express Checkout. So Express Checkout, for you who don't know it, it actually pre-selects all default addresses and payment methods. So it allows users to check out in 2 very fast and easy steps. And this is, again, especially very useful for fast-moving goods or frequently purchased goods in general. Finally, your FAQs page. It is very, very, very recommended to have a specific FAQs page for the current situation. Name it as you will, but basically it's a page where it has more in-depth information about what users should expect. This is information on demand available for users who want to know more, while not overwhelming other users who are not really interested to know more information. So it doesn't overrun users who are okay with like 2 lines in the banner, and it's available for users who actually want to learn more. The main recommendation there is try to have it as structured as possible. So avoid long blurbs of text that make users maybe a bit overwhelmed or lost or can't find the information. So have it more structured, entitled. So basically briefly and clearly communicate all your last updates. Make sure it's updated all the time, because otherwise it has the inverse effect, and tag it always by today's date, so users would know that this is the latest information. Make it clear, brief, concise. Either you can even like consider investing in a video or some other type of creative way to communicate what the new normal is, what your users are expected to do in store. For example, if we recently reopened up, so anything that delivers the idea across lightly and easily. You can even communicate your like your delivery changes in your delivery time. Also in this, like, definitely communicated on your PDP or product details page, but definitely you can add more information here on your delivery and return conditions, your times, your costs, especially if they're changed. And again, you can always benchmark it to your original details if it's not a big difference, so users would feel tempted to, you know, that it's not a big difference anyway, I might as well get this purchase. Definitely communicate and update all your precautionary measures. We've mentioned before that users started caring more about precautions, and it makes them feel well cared for and well taken care of, and they really appreciate retailers who communicate their safety precautions. And finally, pre-expose all your main categories to allow users to navigate easily through the page. So it's not really useful when, again, it's a long blurb of text, but rather have it more structured with main categories, pre-expose your categories, and maybe have a search bar. It could be very useful. It's not critical if you only have one page and it's very well structured, but consider having it as well. In conclusion, more and more of your consumers are actually coming online, and the best way to be there for them is to improve your online presence and your user experience. You can do so through multiple changes across your conversion funnel. Starting from your homepage, you should communicate all key updates so users know what to expect. You should include a call to action to facilitate navigation to more information if users are interested to know more, so you can redirect them to your FAQ page. On your product listing page, highlight limited and out-of-stock items so users wouldn't get overwhelmed with these options, and implement filters for critical product characteristics so users can find their needed products very fast and smooth. On your product details page, try to visualize your product as much as possible, as many images, videos, anything visual as much as possible. Add descriptions, size charts, anything that can make your product as tangible as possible. And for one last time, re-emphasize your value proposition to convince your users why they should stay on your website and complete their purchase. And then finally, on your checkout page, try to remove any obstacles that would make it difficult to complete the purchase. So optimize your form fields, try to make it as brief as possible, implement techniques like autofill and inline validation, and maybe express checkout if you can, and if your product is very like fast moving. So these are some of the recommendations that might be useful to implement during the current situation to improve your user experience. But these recommendations are also very valid in all times. So please feel free to, you know, take any of these recommendations and implement them. They are not really tied to a specific time. Of course, you know, the specific text would be different, but many other recommendations like filters and so on, they can be implemented anytime. Generally speaking as well, for more UX recommendations about designing for this current recommendation, my team and I, we have developed a full playbook that is in your chat box. We've shared it in your chat box. It's bit.ly/UX-retail. You can view all the recommendations that we've made for the retail industry to design for this specific time. And we have, on the final slide, we have a form that you can give us feedback. So we can either try to produce more of this content or readjust it according to your feedback. That's all for me. I hope you've enjoyed the talk. Thank you very, very much. It's been a pleasure to talk with you today, and I hope you stay safe, everyone. Goodbye.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, Samar. Yeah, really enjoyed that talk. There's been a lot of really positive comments in the chat box. Some people saying it's their favourite talk of the day, and that they need to rewatch it to make sure that they've got everything down. There was a lot of advice in there. It was really amazing. We probably have like 1 minute for a quick question. So the one that I've got on here is So Sophie Burrows has said, this was a great talk. You touched on accessibility, which is a great point. I wonder if you could suggest one way that e-commerce brands could improve their website from an accessibility point of view.
Yeah, this is a very good question, and it probably needs a lot more research. To mention a few, for example, how the text is, how big the text is. Other more creative solutions, like less common or like less commonly talked about, is the fact that when we interviewed senior citizens as well, and we even asked them about how their moms and dads have been getting used to the situation, and they were mentioning it's definitely impossible for my mom to go through a full conversion funnel. She needs it, but she cannot do it, and there's no other alternative for her to do so. So she has to rely on other people in her neighborhood to help her get her groceries and so on. She was saying that her mom basically cannot survive post like one-click experience. She cannot just tolerate more than this. It's either she needs a one button to call the grocery store or the retailer, or maybe receive some type of video chat with someone walking her past the aisles and helping her get her groceries. So very obvious things like the color and the dark theme and the enlarging the text and not relying on color so much because of color blindness, and always labeling your icons. So icons are not really like, besides the home button basically and the hamburger menu, they are very hard to grasp. They have different meanings, so always label your icons. And besides that, maybe even try to research your specific segment and see with the new demographic coming online, how are they responding to this?
That's amazing advice. Thank you. Yeah, I bet we could probably learn a lot from people that have been forced to go online now that the pandemic's hit, because they can't go to the shops. Somebody just asked what the link was, but it's just been pasted into the chat, so that's great. So I'm sure people will pick up that link and send you in some comments on that form. That would be great. But thank you very much again, Samar. That was a really, really insightful talk. I really appreciate it. And yeah, it's on to our closing keynote next. We've come to the end of the day, so that's really exciting. Thank you everyone for tuning into the Merchant Track. It's been a pleasure hosting, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.